Again, everyone, I'm Ariana, the host for our webinars. Another very hot month has passed, and we're here in the comfort of our AC for another FLP webinar. We have James and John with us again, joining tonight's webinar over summer carry tips. Thank you again to everyone joining in to watch this month's webinar. John and James are going to share some practical tips and best practices to help you maintain your personal safety without compromising on comfort during this crazy hot summer. Even though we are already at the end of August, it's still over 100 degrees here in Texas, and I'm sure up in Colorado it's prettier, but it's still been a really hot summer. So
not that hot, but hot.
Yeah. So these tips will still be usable this summer and future summers. So remember to submit any questions that you have in the comment section. But you guys take it over and give us some of those tips.
Awesome. All right. Well, so the topic we're going to be talking about this week is summer carry. How do you kind of change things up for the summertime versus the winter? And obviously, the big thing is going to be changing clothing. I'm not going to be, in Colorado in the wintertime, I'm not going to be wearing my big snowboarding coat, and two sweatshirts or something like that over it. So how do you kind of scale down? And I guess the first question to kind of address is, John, what do you tend to carry around nowadays when the weather gets really hot?
I mean, man, for summer carry, and I'm fortunate, obviously being in the gun industry for 15 years, I've acquired, a collection, if you will, of firearms. And as my wife says, I have enough or too many. I've got a lot of different options for what I can do. I tend to go obviously with a smaller gun during summer carry than any of my big full size. The holster is key though, because I do have some pretty big full size guns, compact to full size guns that I do carry when it is summertime, even in just shorts and a t-shirt. But the real key is the holster. It's going to be all about that holster, having a good quality holster. Definitely guns that I like to carry. I've carried a Glock 19 for almost 2 decades during winter and summer. But I definitely have found myself going more towards some of the smaller ones for the summer carry. I've been carrying the Glock 43X a lot more. And within the last probably 6 months, I've been carrying the just regular SIG P365, just the regular one. Not the, now they've got all the variations, the X, the XL, the X Macro, which I have the X Macro. Love that gun. Great gun. I tend to carry that more with, wearing jeans and, maybe like a polo or, even a dress shirt, something like that. Going to the single stack, like a 43X. And, I don't know if everybody watching always knows what it is we're talking about. You and I are so into guns and all the different models. I know a lot of our followers do. So I don't want to confuse people, but even though that SIG 365 is a double stack, it's thin like a single stack almost. I mean, that gun really revolutionized, carry. And they did something different where they built the magazine first and designed the gun around the magazine to be able to make it as small as possible while still getting a very, very nice capacity with either 10 or 12 round mags, typically, depending on the one you go with. But I'm always going to go back to holster is going to be the most important part, at least for me, on if I'm going to be able to conceal it without printing.
So when did you get your first concealed carry permit?
Oh man. I'm 43 now. We got to be going on, 19 years.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah. I'm in about the same range. So what was the first concealed carry gun you got?
The first one that I did concealed carry was the Glock 19.
Okay. That
was the first one. It wasn't the first gun that I bought, but it was the first gun that I bought specifically to be able to carry. This is so long ago, before building up the collection and having all the other guns. So I did want something that was still going to be fun on the range and I could go shoot and practice with a lot without beating my hand up, putting, 300 rounds through it in one range session. And still something good for home defense, but also something that I could carry. And you've heard it, I'm sure. The Glock 19 is kind of the end all be all, the most popular handgun in the world. It's the one that everyone will tell you if they know what they're talking about at a gun store. If you just want one gun and it needs to fit all three needs that most people have, where it's, home defense protection, fun on the range, and you can still carry it. I mean, the Glock 19 has been the number one recommendation forever because honestly, it was the only option really back then that fit all three needs. Now you have so many other guns that, I mean, let's say everybody's tried to copy Glock forever. So, I mean, you've got Smith & Wesson MMPs now that fit that size and that role. You've got the HK VP9, but more so would be the VP9 SK that kind of fits the role of a Glock 19. And then definitely one that I now love that I started going with, maybe just after, 20 plus years of carrying Glocks, maybe I just kind of got complacent or wanted something new. And so I've been doing a lot of the SIGs lately. And I mean, they've got the 320 compact, or my favorite, the 320X, compact. And I do the X carry just because I like that little bit longer grip. And it's, I mean, that much of a difference on the grip between the compact and the carry.
Yeah.
It fits my hand better. And so there's more options now. Even Walther with their PPQ before that got discontinued, and now they've got the PDP. So, I mean, there's so many options that can fit the role of having a gun that still kind of shoots and feels like a full-size gun as far as the recoil and the muzzle flip, while still being compact enough and not having such a long grip that it's pretty easy to conceal it.
So my first concealed carry gun that I got right after I turned 21 was a Smith & Wesson J-frame 357 Magnum with the shrouded hammer. Not like the hammerless one, but it had the full hammer with the big shroud over the back of it. And I got that because I got a good deal on it from like a retired cop someplace. And my thought was, well, hey, if I've got to shoot somebody, I need to make it count. So I'll carry a 357 Magnum just to make sure I don't have to shoot twice. And it seemed like a fantastic idea at the time. And then I discovered that, holster options, despite the fact that, people have been carrying J-frame revolvers, since practically the dawn of time, holster options kind of suck for it. Your options are you can get like a big leather holster on your hip, or you can throw it in your pocket, or maybe get like an ankle holster. And those are like the only three options that are actually out there for it. So after a couple of months, I ditched that thing quick because, way too much recoil. The sights on it absolutely sucked. That was my biggest complaint, was that, you had those fixed notch sights on it. Couldn't see them in low light or anything like that. So I got rid of that. And, I was still going with the idea of, okay, well, if I don't want to have to shoot twice if I have to shoot somebody. So I got a Glock 27.
Yeah,
that was a way, way better choice. And especially for if you're looking for a smaller concealed carry gun, I still think the baby Glocks are a good choice there. They're a little bit smaller than the Glock 19. There will talk about how you carry it and stuff, and why maybe those particular pistols aren't quite as popular anymore. But that seemed to me to be a good idea. I got a good set of night sights on it, did everything that I wanted to. And then a few years later, I discovered that, when I bought a Glock 19 again, that, I could have less recoil, almost double the capacity, and it wasn't really that much bigger. And I started carrying the Glock 19 all the time, and I've gone through a heck of a lot of guns since then. But I found when I first started concealed carrying, the two most important things, and I think you kind of hit on this, that everybody gets like really focused on what gun am I going to carry? What kind of ammunition should I be carrying? All that kind of stuff. The two most important things for concealed carrying are your belt and your holster. Because if you've got a good belt and a good holster, you can carry damn near anything. Under a loose t-shirt, you'd be surprised how big of a gun you can carry. And the other thing that I discovered after, this was probably about 10 or 12 years into concealed carrying, my wife and I were in Lowe's one day, and we were, walking around looking for stuff. And there was a guy that was open carrying a pistol, walking through the bath aisle that we were in or something. And I turned to my wife and I asked her, what do you think about the pistol that guy was carrying? I can't remember what it was, but I asked her about it. She said, what pistol? I said, that guy over there that's got a pistol strapped on his waist, open carry. Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the moment where it occurred to me that people who are carrying a gun, especially when you first get your concealed carry permit, the first time you walk out of the house with that gun strapped onto your hip, you're thinking, oh my God, everybody can see this.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I've got a gun on me. So somebody is going to say something. It's going to be embarrassing and awful. And then like 10 or 15 years later, you kind of realize that, I could probably carry a Desert Eagle under a tank top and nobody would ever actually say anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and people, I mean, honestly, for the most part, people aren't that observant on it, honestly. I mean, even for the open carriers, I mean, concealed carry a little bit different. And I mean, definitely people carrying for a long time, you can kind of tell that person's probably carrying. Even if you don't see a print, just the way they position themselves and the way they'll turn away from somebody that approaches on the side where their firearm is, if they're strong side carrying. I mean, God bless. I feel like you and I could probably talk about this for, probably a whole day, honestly, on all the different options. I'm with you 100% on the belt, in addition to the holster.
Let me ask you, what kind of belt do you use?
So I actually have a belt that they stopped making, which is why I'm glad I got two. The company still exists. It's a company called Ares Gear, ARES Gear. Not getting paid by Ares or anything. It's the holster or the belt that I've used. It was referred to me by another friend that I worked with that was an instructor. And so it is a tactical belt. So this isn't going to work for everybody in their everyday dress, especially if you're tucked in. But there are plenty of companies out there, and Ares Gear has theirs now. They stopped making the one that I have, and I can't remember the exact model. It's this double stitch tactical. It's a very, very sturdy belt. But they have new ones that they do now that are kind of looking to more like it would be a casual belt, not necessarily a dress belt. There are companies that make dress belts that are specifically reinforced belts for you to use with your gun and holster. But belt is key. I saw it so many times over the years in the industry. I had one guy I'll never forget. So he's carrying the exact same holster that I'm carrying. And it's for a Glock 19. And this was a hazmat holster. It's Hazmat Holster Works holster. I like their holsters. I've been carrying them for probably about a decade now, in addition to a whole bunch of other holsters I use too. But that's what I had at the time. And he comes in and he slams the holster down. He's like, "This holster you recommended to me is awful." I'm not going to say the real word he said, but this is terrible. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I'm literally at this moment in time carrying that gun and that holster. And I'm like, what? I use this all the time. And he's like, no, every time. And I was strong side carrying back then. I appendix carry now, but back then I was strong side carry. And he was like, every time I put the gun into the holster, it just flops over. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, every time the holster's just flopping over with the gun. And I was like, lift your shirt up. And he looked at me really weird. And I was like, I don't mean that. Just lift your shirt up. I want to see your belt. And he was like, oh, okay. Lifts his shirt up. The belt was made of straw. I'm like, your belt is the problem, not the holster. I don't care what holster you're using. If it's a belt holster and your belt's made of straw, you're going to have a bad day. It's just how it goes. And I tell my students that story all the time in class. They die laughing. And I'm just like, the belt is key. You need to have something with some stiffness and thickness to it. And, in class, I'll lift my shirt up, show my students the tactical. I'm like, you don't need a tactical belt like this. That's not going to be something that works for everybody. I mean, let's face it, I can get away with it because I'm an instructor. I'm here every day instructing and teaching, and, I can get away with that. But I've got other dress belts and other belts that are casual belts that are specifically made for a gun and a holster. And the belt's key. If it's made of straw or what are those? I mean, it's more so from the 80s, I think, like the woven, like they look like wicker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's not going to work.
the $10 floppy leather one you get from Walmart, right? Yeah. And my favorite for carrying is I've got one made by I think it's AWS. It's pretty much the same thing you're talking about there. The double stitched scuba webbing, with the Cobra buckle at the front.
I've got the Cobra buckle on mine.
Yeah. The Cobra buckle is the key to really get the tactical street cred there. But you're right. It doesn't. That would not look right if I wore a scuba webbing belt with a Cobra buckle to court or to the office, with a pair of Dockers and a button-up shirt. I've gotten, I don't know if they even make it anymore. Magpul made for a while 1.25 inches. So your standard like dress belt size belt that's got a polymer backing that is sewn onto it. So the thing is thick with 2 C's and really, really does hold up a gun well. I've got that I wear with dress pants a lot. I've got another one from Beltman that's just a really thick reinforced leather one. I think if you're going to carry a gun, the first starting point is if you don't have a good belt, you're going to have a bad time. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on holsters. It is not going to work for you, and you're not going to be happy with the end result.
No, definitely not. I gotta say though, man, if I saw you walking through a courtroom in your suit and you're rocking a tactical belt, I could be like, "That's my attorney. That's who I want," because he knows what he's doing.
Only on certain cases. It only works on certain cases.
I mean, I just don't know. I mean, there's so many options, and I mean, and I know I keep repeating myself on that, but there just is. I've got tier 1 concealed holsters that I really, really like. That it's the Axis Elite, and I've got several of those for several of my guns. The cool thing with that is it's also got a mag carrier, so I've got gun and mag carrier. Now that holster is not going to work if you don't appendix carry, unless you're going to take the mag carrier off, and then you could use it as a strong side carry too. I definitely for concealing, and I know that's kind of our topic, and summer carry and concealing. Appendix carry is going to be the easiest way to conceal. I mean, you can definitely conceal strong side. I did it for years, but I know that I'm better concealed with, just everyday movements, especially like in a store, reaching up on a top shelf to grab something, bending over to pick something up, whatever it is, it's going to print more when you strong side carry. And I don't want to discourage anyone from doing strong side. If that's what you want to do it. I did it for a long time, probably, about a decade and a half, probably. Ever since switching to appendix carry, I've just been more happy with it. It does take a second to get used to it, especially if you are bending over to pick something up, you'll feel it. But I mean, you feel it when you strong side carry too. And kind of back to what you were saying, like when you first start carrying and it's like, oh my God, everybody knows. Nobody knows. There is an awesome video that I started recommending to my students that I saw one day. And I mean, I saw it years down the road from actually my first time ever carrying, but it hit home because I had like kind of PTSD flashbacks to everything I felt on, my first, even year of carrying. But it's a video I think it's on YouTube. You can Google it, whatever. And it's day 1 of concealed carry versus day 365 of concealed carry. And I mean, it's pretty accurate. I mean, it's everything they're talking about. It's like what you said. Guy walks out the door day 1 and he sees somebody and it's like, he just stops dead in his tracks. Oh my God, they know I got to go. Like, no, they don't. Day 365, he just walks, and doesn't think anything. Day 1, drops a pencil at work. And he's like looking around, trying to figure out how he's going to pick it up and like doing this weird squatting motion to pick it up. And like day 365 drops the pencil and just bends over and picks it up and goes on about his day. So, I mean, for any of you new to it, I would definitely watch that video. It'll really put it in perspective of just we're in our own heads thinking that people know, and they don't. They just don't.
Well, so and you mentioned strong side versus appendix and all that kind of stuff. So for those who aren't quite as up on the lingo, let's kind of talk about some of the different holster styles and different options out there. So you and I were talking before we started this. I'm I'm rocking a solid dad bod, so I'm not that into appendix carrying. And appendix carrying is when you have basically the gun tucked right up in front of you, almost you'd have the slider, the barrel in line with the zipper of your pants, or maybe slightly offset to the side. I know a lot of people do it a whole lot of different ways up there in the front, and that's a really good way to do it, because if you think about the hardest part of a gun to conceal is going to be the grip, because the grip is what's going to push out on your shirt. If you're carrying, with the the slide inside your pants. It doesn't really matter how long that barrel is, without until you start getting into ridiculous portions.
Unless you
but
got
it doesn't
the,
make a whole
Jack
lot of difference.
Nicholson original Joker Batman revolver going
Exactly. Yeah. And hey, nobody saw him walking down the street with that thing down his pants either. So he knew what he was up to. So as long as you got it, the grip is the hard part to conceal. And if you've got it in the front of your body there, that grip is, it's running perpendicular to the front of your body. So it's not really going to be sticking out anyplace. So that makes it really easy to conceal. The problem is, when you bend over, now you've got this gun in front of you, and if you're trying to bend over at the waist, where's the butt of that gun going to go? Where's the muzzle of it going to go? Yeah. And then there's a lot of people have problems with it because of where the muzzle of that gun is pointed. I don't know that I feel comfortable enough that I carry like a SIG P320 pointed at my junk all day, but Glocks I'm pretty good with doing something like that, and that's become really popular in the last couple of years. It's not for everybody, but it's probably the most popular new way that people are carrying. The other way that I typically do is going to be strong side, which is you take your strong hand. I'm right-handed, so it'd be my right side there, and you carry it right on your hip at 3 o'clock on your body clock to about 4:30, maybe a little bit back, but not too much farther, and carry there. And that's kind of the classic way, because it's where it's going to be easiest, where most of us are trained to draw from. When I started doing practical shooting back in high school, I always carried outside the waistband and a competition holster right there. So it just makes sense for me. It's natural that that's where you grab a gun from. It's not the best to conceal, because A, if somebody is looking to see if you got a gun, that's usually the first place their eyes are going to go to look on it. Yeah. And B, if you've got a pistol with a longer grip, that grip is going to be poking out, and it's going to be poking into whatever cover garment you've got. And we kind of talked about it a little bit before we started here. There's new holster designs out there. You can get one with a wing that kind of goes back towards the grip that'll help pull it tighter into your body. Yeah. That's a good way to go. That's where guns with a shorter grip really pay off big dividends. If you're wearing a t-shirt and you've got something like a Glock 17 under your shirt, the Glock 17 is going to print really bad, because you got that very long grip that's going to be pushing into that shirt, and people are going to see that right angle right there on your right hip, right waistband, and you're going to be able to tell that's a pistol. If you got a Glock 26, because it's much shorter, much stubbier, there's an extra 1.5 inches of grip that is not pushing out there, and it's going to disappear a lot better. That's where those compact grip guns, I think, really, really come in nice. But the big thing that I hate is I don't like when they, have a really compact grip and then a really, really short barrel. I'm the one weirdo that wants somebody to, come out with, little short, stubby grip pistols with 5-inch barrels. I'm that weird guy.
You want like the Glock 26L.
Yes.
You want them to do that. There's actually a lot of people that have been wanting Glock to do that for a long time now. Not only that one, but the Glock 19L, where they want the 19, because everyone thought that was going to be the Glock 19X, which, was for the military. And then they did the Glock 45, which is just the black version of the 19X, which only comes in flat dark earth, same gun, basically. Yeah. Some subtle changes. But everyone was upset because a lot of people want that 19L, apparently. They want that shorter grip with that longer slide. Whereas I'm the weirdo in that case. I love the 19X. I love the Glock 45. I want the longer grip to fit my hand. And because the Glock 19 fits my hand, but barely. If that grip was just even like 1/4 of an inch shorter, I wouldn't have it, because it wouldn't fit my hand. So, and I don't have the world's biggest hand. I got decent sized hands. I don't have the biggest hands in the world. So anyone with hands bigger than mine, that 19 is not going to fit in your hand unless you're okay with, tucking your pinky underneath the base plate of your magazine, which some people are. I am not one of those people. I want a full grip. But weirdly, you can now make a 19L. If you've got a Glock 19 and you get that new Glock 47, you can have 4 guns out of 2, because you can swap the slides between them. So
you don't even need to get the Glock 47. I'll tell you, I made my own with a police trade-in Glock 22 and a Spyderco knife and a hacksaw.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I did not exactly the preferred method to do it, but yes, it works. Yes, I've done it, and it's a great carry gun.
And I'm with you on the wings and the claws, whatever you guys want to call it, because they're different. But wings, claws on the holster to push it closer to the body. And it works for strong side and appendix. Carrying up front appendix style, carrying strong side, right or left, depending on, which handed you are. They really do help push it closer to the body. But the other nice thing, and I admittedly should have done this a long time ago, I just got into it in like the last 4 months, is the wedges that you can put on the holster. So they have these wedges. I don't know if we're allowed to show a gun and holster on here or not.
I think I got banned from YouTube for doing that.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm worried about if I pull it out and show it. And I'm sure there's plenty of companies that make it, but to know what I'm talking about, if you go to Tier 1 Concealed and look at their website and look under accessories at wedges, you'll see what I'm talking about. They have different sizes, small, medium, large. I think there's an extra large. I do medium ones. But it's this nice soft foam, but it's foam, but it's still rigid, but it's comfortable. And it kind of like almost like a more stiff memory foam mattress, if you will, that's been cut into this wedge that goes on your holster. And a lot of people like it because it's more comfortable having that wedge up against their body versus the hard Kydex holster. But I didn't care about the Kydex on my body. That I was fine with. I never had a comfort issue. For me, it was reading about how much more it pushes it even in closer to your body. So by having the claw and then that wedge, my holsters, my guns, it conceals so much better now I can even do a full size in shorts and a t-shirt, all because of the holster that I have with that wedge, in addition to the claw that's usually on most Kydex holsters these days. Most of them have a wedge or a claw, or not a wedge, but a claw that's already going to be on it. And then you get this wedge and put that on there, and it conceals so much better because it pushes it so much closer to the body. I love it. I'm never going back. I love having that on there now. Unfortunately,
I know back before people started making name brand wedges, they used to just take Dr. Scholl's foot inserts and cut those into shape and glue them to the back of your holster.
Yeah, lots of people have just made their own over the years. There's an instructor I was helping out in Colorado, and that's what he did. He made his own wedge and put it on there, and he loves it. He swears by it. I'd personally rather just buy it. And so I bought mine from Tier 1. And sure, I have those wedges on my Tier 1 holsters, but I also have those wedges on my bare arms holsters. I have them on my hazmat holsters. So I just bought a bunch of their wedges and put it on all different ones. I think I put one on my T-Rex holster even, and my Legacy Firearms holster. So I've got these wedges that I just bought from them. It was just simpler than me going out in the garage and making a whole bunch of them, and less time consuming to just buy them. And so I put all those on my holsters, and I love it. I wish I had done it years ago.
For summertime carry, I think that you're pretty much just going to want to have an inside the waistband holster, because outside the waistband, you just got it on the outside of your pants there. You're going to have your barrel sticking out below your shirt. Nobody's running around in a winter parka in the summertime, so you're just not going to be able to see that there. There are some other ways to carry, though. And, so it kind of a little bit more obscure ones. So some of the ones
focus really on just belt holster carry. All we've talked about so far, really. I mean, you're right, because there's so many other ones. We've mainly focused on the belt holster community so far.
Yep. One's very popular is, pocket carry. You can take a small gun, you can just throw it into your pocket. I'd advise people not to just throw their gun into their pocket, even if you're even if it has a safety, it's just a bad idea. If you want to have that trigger covered, in case you forget and throw your keys into your pocket really quick, now that's going to be a negligent discharge waiting to happen, or something brushes up against your pocket. It's one of those things I don't think is ever going to happen. But you can find videos of some dude where it did happen, and he shot himself because he just, threw a gun into his pocket. And actually, I knew a guy from high school that did that. He was carrying without a holster, just shoved a Springfield XD back into his waistband on the backside, shot through both butt cheeks one night when he sat down in his car. It can absolutely happen. So don't be that guy.
Burris. Plexico Burris, what was he, the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, Giants, I think. I think it was New York Giants.
Oh, I think it was Giants. Yeah.
He was in a club in New York City, and did exactly that. Yeah. Because he had a pistol in his sweatpants. Kind of a common theme. Don't suggest sweatpants for concealed carrying. And the gun was slipping down, and he reached down into his pants to grab the gun to keep it from slipping, and pulled the trigger and wound up shooting himself in the leg.
Yeah. And I mean, and there are so many options if you're not doing the belt holster. You and I were talking about it before the show, and I already saw it in the comments, the Filster Enigma, which, I've seen it. I don't know if I fully understand everything about it, even though I've seen it. It's one of our partners out in Arizona, one of the employees there, he's one of their managers, and that's what he does. He loves it. He's carrying a full-size, I think he had a full-size government model 1911 that he was carrying. And he swears by this Filster Enigma system. And even though he's wearing jeans and a belt, he's got it. And it's like this chassis that goes kind of, you kind of step into it, almost like a, what's the word I'm trying to think of for when you go like ziplining, the whole rig that you step into the harness.
Yeah.
It's almost like this harness,
like a repelling
holster that, and so it doesn't matter if you're wearing a belt. Like, I mean, you're going to print if you're wearing yoga pants, ladies, but, you could wear sweatpants, honestly, with that holster. You can wear, pants, no belt, because I know that's one thing for women, especially. I cover it all the time in my class. I'm like, look, it's nothing sexist, ladies. You're probably going to end up buying more holsters than guys do, because you have so many different ways that you dress. Whether it's you're wearing a dress, you're wearing a skirt, you're wearing yoga pants. I mean, you guys love to wear pants, no belt, even when it's jeans, no belt. And so belt holsters aren't going to work for you, but there are lots of good options. Belly bands, that's one option. You can get this belly band that wraps around your body, and then, put your shirt over it, your top over it, your blouse. I don't know all the terms on women's shirts and everything, but it just goes right over it. So this belly band just wraps around your body. You've got a holster, stick your gun in there, put your shirt down over it. Technically, you could wear it with a dress. The only issue is to be able to draw if you're wearing a dress is you've got to lift the dress up. Might be enough time to, kind of delay the attacker or robber. Like, give me your money, and you start lifting your dress up, and they're like, what's happening? It's a gun, damn. So, maybe it's enough to distract them. But there are lots of options for sure for everybody. And I mean, the belly bands, I know a lot of guys that use belly bands too. I have a belly band. My wife has a belly band. Now there are people make it their everyday carry. I don't. I tend to do belt holsters because I'm almost always wearing a belt. But when I'm sitting at home and I'm just in athletic shorts and, wife is like, hey, you need to run to Kroger, to Costco real quick. We need this, go pick this up real quick. I don't feel like going and getting my jeans and my belt and my, holster that's the belt holster out of the safe and everything like that. So I will literally just grab that belly band, lift my t-shirt up, wrap it around me, stick my little 43X or 365 in there and head to the store. So those are a pretty good option. Definitely like what you were saying with like the pocket carry, I'm with you on that. Don't just stick a gun in your pocket. And I mean, some people do. And if you're going to, just don't keep it chambered. Just make sure it's not chambered if you're going to do that, but definitely have something covering the trigger guard is what I always recommend. And I saw it in the comments also, and it's not bad for that. Are those sticky holsters? Have you seen those?
Yeah, that's what I'm carrying right now.
Oh, okay, perfect. So the sticky holsters they make. I mean, they've got big ones also. That wouldn't be really ideal for pocket carry that you can still carry on your body without a belt. I mean, it's all in the name sticky. It's the material that it's made out of. And people are definitely skeptical. I've demoed it multiple times in the store because they're like, well, I just don't get it. I feel like the holster is going to come with the gun when I draw. And I'm like, let me show you. I'll open it up. I'll stick the holster in. I'll put the gun in. And I'm like, all right, see? And they're like, yeah. And I draw, and out comes the gun. Holster stays. They're like, oh, my God, it works. I'm like, yeah, well, do you really think that they'd be selling this if it didn't work? Like, but they have the little ones for like, your Ruger LCPs or your, Smith & Wesson bodyguards for your little 380s that you can stick it in there, or like a, Beretta Tomcat. I actually love that gun. And you can just stick it in your pocket. But you still have something covering up the trigger guard.
And what those holsters are is it's basically a cloth holster that's got a kind of sticky rubbery material all around the outside of it. And the idea is that it'll cover up the trigger guard, keeps the trigger from being accidentally pulled, and it doesn't add a lot of bulk to the pistol. So when you've got that in your pocket, it actually can kind of break up the outline of the pistol a little bit. But when you go to draw, it will kind of stick inside your pocket. And most of them will have a hook down at the bottom. So when you draw, and you just got to practice this, when you're out at the range, you just got to make sure that you kind of drag the barrel towards the back of your pocket, and it'll hook there. And when you pull it out of your pocket, it'll come out of the holster. I think those are the best way, if you ask me, to carry a pistol in your pocket. I've seen the ones that have like a hard flap around the outside or something to break up the outline of your pistol, and that's cool for concealing it, but it makes it harder than hell to actually draw one of those. And the biggest problem with pocket carry is the size of the gun you can carry. If you're wearing 5'11" tactical pants, yeah, I can probably carry my Beretta M9 in my pocket in those. If I'm just wearing a
or
pair
one
of
of the pockets on the pouches that you have.
Exactly. If I'm just wearing a pair of Dockers to the office, that's not going to work. You're going to be looking like a little, single stack 380 or something, and that's a much better option than having no gun. I will tell you, I'd much rather have my Bodyguard 380 or an LCP than nothing. But obviously, it's not going to be as good as a full size Glock or even a compact or baby Glock or a Smith & Wesson Shield or something like that. A couple other things that I see some people doing: ankle holsters. That's one of the popular ones I see people asking a lot about. You don't see a lot of people ankle carrying anymore for some very good reasons.
It's not in shorts.
Yeah, especially not in shorts.
Yeah, you're open carrying.
Yeah, whatever. It's just not that comfortable. It's hard to draw from. I'll tell you, I do ankle carry occasionally, just because if I'm in my office and I'm wearing a button-up shirt and a pair of slacks, it's a really good way to carry around the office. Right. When I don't want to have something that I've got like a shirt tucked in over it. If I'm wearing it in the waistband, because when I'm around the office, I've always got to have my shirt tucked in. So that limits me to really tucked in inside the waistband pocket or ankle, and it's an option, but there aren't a lot of really good ankle holsters out there. I actually like the Alien Gear one just because the way that it goes on, it kind of wraps around the ankle and holds it in there really tight and securely. That's the only one I've ever found that I like. All the rest are just way the hell too floppy.
Yeah, no, the Alien Gear one, and I don't have Alien Gear holsters personally. Nothing against Alien Gear. I've seen them. I've got buddies that carry them. I've got instructors that use them and carry them. I've got so many holsters. I've spent so much money on accessories and holsters, not even counting the guns. I'm just not where I want to, buy something else. I mean, unless it's just going to be some new revolutionary holster that's going to change the whole game. I've got plenty of good holsters between the Tier 1, the hazmat holsters, the Bear Arms holsters, T-Rex Arms. That was one of the first holsters I got when I really realized, that lovely nylon holster I bought, 20 years ago was stupid. Not a good holster at all. And so, I've got so many good holsters that I can use and utilize, but I've heard the same thing from people about the ankle carry, because like Galco makes one. And they said that this Alien Gear one was hands down the best one that they've used so far. So I've heard that from a few people now. Ankle holster carry. One thing I've noticed, well, let me see how you do yours first. So you're right-handed. So is your ankle holster, is it on the inside of your left leg?
Yep.
Okay. Because so many people, and I know people do it and, teach their own. It's just going to print more on showing on the outside. So many people think for right-handed, you're putting it so that it's on your right ankle on the outside, like facing towards everybody. I'm like, no, that's not how you're supposed to do ankle carry. It's supposed to go on the inside of your left leg if you're right-handed, or on the inside of your right leg if you're left-handed.
Yeah, if you've got it on the outboard side of your leg, you're going to be smacking that gun into absolutely everything as you're walking.
Yeah.
If you got it on the inside, you're not as likely to hit on something. There's some more options that people, look into in the summertime. Off body carry, purses, those sort of things. Typically we don't recommend, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't recommend carrying in a purse necessarily because it is an easy thing for somebody to grab and run off with. And then you have no gun.
And I mean, honestly, it's the first thing that a robber usually takes from a woman is the purse. Yeah. So if they get the purse, now they got your gun. Plus, I mean, honestly, unless, and I've told my students this because I get asked this all the time by women, and I get it. Look, if you want to carry in your purse, it is what it is. Hopefully, at least it's not just on your shoulder. You've got a crossbody. It'll make it harder for them to take off you. But if you're walking through like a parking garage or something and your gun's in your purse and that's how you're carrying, I got news for you. You're going to have your hand inside your purse on the gun, finger off the trigger, but hand on the gun as you're walking through the parking garage. Because if anything happens, you're not going to have time to get into your purse and get the gun if your hand's not already in there on it. And I mean, just it's worth it to just give them the purse, but not if there's a gun in there. Because if they go through it right then and there, and now they had a knife, well, now they got a gun. So I'm with you. I agree with you 100%. I don't want to say this is, an FLP like policy or endorsement of don't carry in a purse. I'm not going to do that. I'm not speaking for FLP here. I'm speaking for just my personal opinion and me as what I did as an instructor for so long. If you can carry on your body, carry on your body. It's going to serve you better. And that's where, if somebody does just, they come up with a knife or something, or even a gun, and they just want your purse, give them the purse and be done with the situation. Because if you can avoid the conflict, avoid it. But you certainly don't want to be giving them another gun to have. So we're in agreement on that. Let's see if we're in agreement on this. Have you, and this is for, more geared towards women, obviously. Have you seen the bra holster?
The flashbang.
Oh, God. What are your thoughts? Do you like it?
Well, I think where you were talking about having to hike up your skirt to draw your pistol there and distracting the burglar, I think that kind of accomplishes the same goal there, doesn't it? The issue is I don't think that you're going to get quite the amount of support you're thinking you're going to get out of a bra-based holster there. Unless you are wearing the double stitch scuba webbing style bra that is going to actually have the support there. It's going to be bouncing around. It's going to be flopping all over the place. I'm sure if you had a small enough pistol, you could probably make it work. Again, I don't wear a bra. I'm not an expert on that particular one. It doesn't seem like the best way to do it for me, but my opinion is if it works for you, if you are, a woman that is stacked enough to make that go for you, then, by all means, if that works for you, do it. The problem is, you're going to be if you draw at that, just thinking about it, you're probably going to be pointing a gun at your heart in order to draw properly with that. And that's going to be the even bigger issue. So, if you're going to do that, you got to get 10,000 dry fire reps with an empty gun to make sure that you are, that you're not going to shoot yourself in the lung or the heart if you're drawing out of that.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it, because I remember reading a story years ago about a woman who went to draw her gun. She did the bra holster. She went to draw and missed the draw, goes back to redraw, and, adrenaline's flowing, freaking out. And her finger went through the trigger guard onto the trigger. And as she pulled the trigger, shot herself, hit an artery, and unfortunately she did bleed out and die. Yeah. Now I'm sure I'll catch flack for that because I appendix carry. So I know I'm aware my gun is pointed at my femoral. But I have done lots and lots of training. I've done lots of practice drawing, and I taught holster courses. So, I did lots of training and practice and everything. And your first safety is here. Your second safety is here. As long as you're using this properly, this isn't going to be on the trigger till it needs to be anyway. And so I get it. There's plenty of people, they're not going to want to appendix carry for those reasons. It is pointed at your femoral. And I'm well aware of that. Weirdly enough, I do carry a 320 X carry appendix chambered. never had an issue. Knock on wood for that. But I mean, just the bra holster, it is going to be a slow draw. You do have to lift that shirt up to be able to get to it. And that's more a thing for me of how high that shirt has to come up before you can even start to draw your gun versus, appendix, I'm here, shirt barely comes up and I'm on my gun, so everyone's different. You're going to need to do what's comfortable for you and what's not going to, it seems like a concern of most people watching so that it does not print. And I mean, again, it goes back to, if it's a belt holster, definitely getting a good quality belt and good quality holster with claws and wedges is going to help conceal it closer to the body. I don't know. Smaller back is very, very comfortable. I know a lot of people that do carry smaller back and they swear by it because of how comfortable it is. On the flip side, if I'm behind you in line somewhere and I see it print, all I got to do is lift your shirt up and pull that gun out. You're never going to see it coming because your back is to me, your gun is to me, and it'd be pretty easy for me to disarm you.
And if you get pushed over and you then fall on your back, your spine is going to take a hell of a hit there because you now got a piece of steel, right there at the base of your spine. And if you're laying on your back, how are you going to draw your holster, or how are you going to draw your pistol if you're laying on top of it like that? It's going to be pretty damn hard.
Yep. And I mean, on the flip side, people can say the same thing to me if they get me on my stomach. How am I going to draw it? But that's why I said we could talk about this for days.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to everything. I mean, like when we talked about lights or weapon lights or lasers. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. There really is. You've got to figure out what's going to work best for you. And I mean, I know we say it almost every time, but the number one thing I'm going to say is no matter what, when you figure out what you're going to use, how you're going to carry, what holster you're going to have, practice, training, go take holster courses, whatever range you shoot at. I'm sure they have an instructor there. I'm sure they have courses there. There's always Concealed Coalition that you can do courses with all over the country. I was just out there in Colorado doing a course with them. So, make sure whatever you do train. It's not going to do you any good if you don't. You need to be comfortable drawing. And if you're fortunate, like, James and I, you're going to have lots of options. You're going to have the issue of, because I do it sometimes when just the wife and I are going out to dinner, and it's weird because it's like she's waiting on me because I'm standing there in front of the safe, like, which gun and holster do I want to carry tonight? Like, trying to figure out which one I want. And part of it is also based on how I'm dressed and what's going to conceal the best. Mm-hmm. But, I know at the end of the day, I've probably got, for how I'm dressed, 3 options I could do. And my wife's like, can you just pick a gun so we can go to dinner? I'm like, all right.
Well, and so an important point I want to make here. A lot of this that we've been talking about, we've kind of mentioned women, and you and I, we both know women. We're both married, but I am not an expert in women's concealed carry. About 90% of the knowledge that I have of women's concealed carry, I learned from watching James Bond movies, and I think that's probably fairly unrealistic. I will tell you, I just signed my wife up today to go to a women's only shooting night at our local range because there are female instructors there that have holsters, that have belts, that have figured out how to do this and actually carry while dressed like a woman. And that is not something that I am an expert on. I think you and I can probably give some general tips there. But if you are a woman that is looking to start carrying, find your local range. I guarantee you they have got a women's specific night, and go to it. My experience with that, I've gone to a couple of those and I've taught there about laws and stuff. They're very friendly. They're very welcoming. They love having new women that come in there, and they are more than happy to show you, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what works for me. And you're going to get a lot better advice about something like that than from one of the two of us about, how to carry as a woman.
Oh, 100%. I mean, even the general tips that I'm giving out, this isn't something I came up with. I have no clue what it's like to be a woman and how you're going to carry and how you guys are dressed all the time and all the different outfits. Even the general tips that I give, it's from picking female instructors' brains and talking to them, because that question does come up in my class. I've got men and women in the class. And so being a guy, it's like, man, I'm not a woman. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to tell you what to do. But so that's why I started picking female instructors' brains. One that I've known for a long time, she's former Secret Service. And so I got a lot of helpful tips from her. There's a new female instructor that we started working with, so I've gotten tips from her. So yeah, any general tips I'm giving, it's not like I made this up. It's this is what I've picked up from them and what they've told me, and I just try to pass it on, whether it be to students in the class when I'm teaching, or even just a webinar. So.
Yeah. So the big question, the overriding thing here, why are we talking about all this stuff about how to carry during the summertime? What's different than in the summertime? It's because there's a tendency for your gun to show, to print, for people to be able to look at you and see, okay, this guy is carrying a concealed firearm. So kind of the legal ramifications of that. A lot of people ask the question, well, am I breaking the law if I'm printing? And it's a very state specific question. But the best advice I can give you on that is if you think about what is printing, if I decide that I'm going to go out in my extra medium, tight t-shirt and short shorts, and somebody can see that I've got a gun on me, what am I doing? Essentially at that point, I'm open carrying. Yep. If I'm concealed carrying so badly that somebody can see that I've got a gun, I'm not concealed carrying, I'm open carrying. So the question is open carry legal in the place that you are? Up here in Colorado, open carry has been legal for quite a long time. It is legal to open carry in the state of Colorado. So if I've got my concealed carry permit and I'm doing a bad job of concealed carrying, all I'm doing is I'm open carrying at that point. And that is legal in the state of Colorado. So talk to your local attorneys, call up your FLP hotline, ask them, hey, what are the laws on open carry? Down where you are in Texas, Texas has got kind of an odd history with open carry. Tell us a little bit about that, John.
So we didn't even get open carry in Texas until 2016. And that's the hilarious part, with the stigmata that people will give to certain states, and, Texas, most gun friendly state, and you move to Texas, they give you a free gun. It's like, honestly, there are states with better gun laws than Texas. Arizona, West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia laws are amazing enough that I'm like, man, I kind of want to move to West Virginia just because of their laws, or in this case, lack thereof. But we didn't get open carry till 2016, which is why we changed the name from a CHL for our carry permit, concealed handgun license, to LTC, license to carry, because now we could open carry also with our permit. You still then had to have the permit to be able to carry concealed or open. But now that's changed now that we've got the constitutional carry. Unlicensed carry, if you're unlicensed and doing what you think is constitutional carry, it's got all kinds of restrictions with it that people like me with the actual carry permit that we don't have. There are far more restrictions if you're unlicensed in Texas versus being licensed. So that's why I don't like ever calling it constitutional carry in any of the states, because in almost every state, you've got more options and more freedoms on where you can carry if you're licensed, and how you can carry if you're licensed versus if you are unlicensed. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, for me and the open carry in Texas, we've had this back and forth over it, where before we got open carry, if you were printing, it was technically illegal in Texas. An officer could technically arrest you and take your gun. But I mean, honestly, unless the officer was just having a really bad day or you were really mean to him, all they would ever do is, because I mean, if you're walking into the wind, I don't care, strong side or appendix, and that wind's blowing right at you, man, it's going to show your gun. You're going to print. I've done it plenty of times, walking into the wind, going into a store, and the wind just blows my shirt right up against my body and my gun. But I mean, honestly, even though they could arrest you, it was officer leeway on that and officer discretion. And most of them, they would just come up to you and be like, hey, I saw your shirt lift up with the wind, or I saw it print against your body with the wind. Or if you were in a store reaching up on a top shelf and shirt lifted up and showed the gun, they would just let you know, like, hey, I could see it. And since you did have to have a carry permit to carry, they usually would ask, hey, I just need to make sure you're allowed to carry this. Let me see your CHL. Make sure you have a concealed handgun license, and send you on your way. And it was no big deal. And then I believe it was 2017, and that went away. It was no longer even a arrestable offense if you did accidentally print or show your firearm while carrying. And part of that might be because we did have open carry at that point too. So they did away with it for even being an arrestable offense at all, and giving you a ticket. Keep in mind, the officer would still probably come up and just talk to you. You know, if they see it, if you're concealed carrying and they see the gun, they might come up and talk to you. Just like they've gone and talked to people that are open carrying. And I know people get upset because there's not a state that I know of, except for states with like, you know, stop and frisk and everything like that. And, you know, you have to ID, you know, like New York and stuff like that. But, you know, I know it's not reason for an officer to just come talk to you because you're carrying a firearm, because it's not illegal. And there's court cases showing that. I'm sure you know the name better than I do on the actual court case, where just seeing a firearm and somebody carrying a gun is not reasonable suspicion of them committing a crime or is about to commit a crime, or even stopping to ID them in most states that still have freedom. I can't.
Yeah, and in Colorado, and in particular, that's kind of where I'm the expert on. It is legal to carry a concealed firearm as long as you've got your concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
So if you are printing, you know, the majority of people that are open carrying in Colorado don't have a concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
So if you are if you are concealed carrying, but you're doing it very badly, oftentimes you will get approached by law enforcement, because if you have a concealed carry permit, you have to identify yourself as a concealed carrier if asked by law enforcement. So they'll go up to you and say, hey, do you have a concealed carry permit? Because what they're trying to figure out is, are you a concealed carrier who's just doing a bad job, or are you a criminal that doesn't know how to conceal carry well? And now they may have an issue that they're going to approach you on. Best advice I can give to everybody nationwide would be check with your local laws, see if open carrying is legal. If open carry is legal, then printing, if you're concealed carrying, is generally not going to be an issue. But if you have any questions about it, call your FLP number. And FLP has got a rundown for every single state in the country. They can give you far better specialized advice than we can give about your own individual state.
If you're already an FLP member, open up your app. Open up the MyFLP app, and right there on the homepage of the MyFLP app, you'll see legal questions, ? And I mean, you can just email in whatever question you have also. You know, call the customer service hotline if you want to, and we'll get it answered for you. But we do have a specific team for those questions, and the best place for it is honestly on the app with the legal questions. And so that way we can get it over to the appropriate people, and they can answer your question. I know sometimes even when it's state specific, like Texas, you know, I'll get a call and be like, hey, you know, what can they do here in Texas? I've been teaching those penal codes forever that I can teach an LTC class in my sleep. And so, you know, you utilize your membership for sure. If you're protected by us, there's so many different benefits that we have for you that you can utilize to answer your questions and to help you guys out. Kind of on the topic of discussion for the carry and summer carry and firearms, I don't ever want to tell anyone, like we've mentioned a lot of different guns that you and I like and holsters that you and I like. At the end of the day, you have to find what you like and what works for you. It happens almost every class that I've ever taught, especially for a carry permit class. And the students come up and they're like, well, John, what gun do you carry? What holster do you use? And, you know, and I'm like, look, like, I know what works for me. I know what I like. Let's figure out what you like, because what I like, you might hate it. You might hate the setup I have. You might hate the gun I use. You know, figure out what works best for you. But if you are, you know, buying just, you know, one gun to fit all three needs, like a lot of people do, well, Glock 19 has probably been, you know, the king and end all be all for, you know, decades. There's finally a gun that I'm actually enjoying carrying more and liking a little better than my 19. Like I've been trying to find a gun to dethrone my 19 for years. And I thought the VP9 SK had a chance, but it didn't, because it was wider than the 19. It was harder to conceal carry. Even though it's smaller, it's wider. And so it was harder to conceal carry. I am a huge fan of that new SIG 365 X Macro. And I like the comped version. They have non-comped versions, but I like the comped one. It's thinner than the 19. It's easier to carry. It shoots just as nice, if not even nicer. Just with the comped one, little less muzzle flip, little less felt recoil even than my 19. And it's a 17-round mag instead of a 15-round mag. It's the first gun in 2 decades that I've actually am enjoying more than my 19s that I've had forever, because I've got several Glock 19s. Now I know what's going to happen. I'm going to have to go buy a few more X Macros. I just like having multiple of the same gun that I carry regularly. So.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. It's trial and error. You guys have to find what works best for you. You really do.
Exactly.
Is that all for the tips tonight? You guys covered a lot, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way.
We need to catch our breath for a minute.
I'd be willing to bet James has this too. But if you're like a lot of us, unfortunately, you don't normally get to buy a holster, wear it for a month, and then bring it back to the store and return it and be like, I didn't like this. So unfortunately, if you're like a lot of us, you're probably going to end up with kind of a drawer full of holsters as you figure out what works best for you. I definitely have it's not a drawer, but I've got a old Army case that I got from a buddy that was in the Army, and he gave it to me when he got back. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can use this for storage. And I've got a whole bunch of holsters in there that I know for a fact I will never, ever wear again. I will never, ever use.
I have 2 bankers boxes in my basement full of old holsters that I don't use anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, it really is. I mean, guns, that's one thing, man. Go to your range, try out the rental guns there, figure out what works best for you. Holsters, it's kind of trial and error and figure out what you like.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. But if any of you guys are watching this, then I'm sure you most likely have a firearm. If you ever do have to defend yourself with a firearm or any legal weapon, for that matter, then what happens after you protect yourself? John mentioned FLP, and so did James, talking about emailing in if you have any questions like this that you're wanting to make sure of. But not being legally protected after a self-defense incident, even if you're in the right, can sadly still result in expensive litigation. So before we get started on answering some of the questions that came through, I'm going to discuss a little bit about what Firearms Legal Protection has to offer for you.
Firearms Legal Protection offers several different memberships to whoever is interested in signing up for legal protection. These plans are divided into individual plans and a family plan, which some benefits and pricing vary state by state. For the purposes of this webinar, we will look at our most common plans and benefits that are available in most states. The individual basic plan includes protection in your state of residence. It also includes uncapped payment of attorney fees for defense of criminal and civil cases. Firearms Legal Protection memberships also extend to all legal weapons, including non-lethal weapons. With the individual basic plan, you also have Defense of Extreme Risk Protection Orders, also known as red flag laws. All plans have access to the 24/7 emergency attorney answered hotline, so no matter a time an incident may occur, you can count on our hotline and an attorney will pick up for immediate attorney-client privileges. You also have access to the MyFLP mobile app and one of our recently added benefits, expungement of criminal record on non-conviction incidents. Members of all plans also receive access to digital content and special discounts. The next step up is the individual premium plan. This plan has nationwide coverage and also includes all the benefits just mentioned and payment of bail bond premium, payment of expert witness and investigator fees if either are needed in your case. There's also coordination of counseling support, payment of lost wages if you are out of work during trial, and a list of other benefits. We also have the family premium plan to choose from for those who want the same protection also applied to their family. For just a little bit more, you get all the benefits that were just mentioned applied to your spouse and all minor children. If you want more information over these benefits, then check out our Instagram or Facebook page for uploaded explained benefit videos. Remember, if you, friends, or family are not already protected by Firearms Legal Protection, please click the link below for a special discount we offer our webinar viewers. Now, let's get back to today's webinar.
All right, let's get into some of these pre-submitted questions and we can go through the comments. You guys are already addressing a lot of the questions that came through the comments, but we can touch on some.
Yeah, there's a couple that we didn't at the beginning that I was just looking at. I will tell you that my favorite comment, though, is Hawaiian shirts are great to prevent printing. Love that comment. That's so good.
100%.
It's true.
If it worked for Magnum, it'll work for you.
I mean, and honestly, it's not wrong. I mean, button-up shirts like that versus just like a polo or something, like the Columbia fishing shirts and stuff. I love wearing those because, I mean, I can conceal carry a Glock 17 in one of those shirts. Like, no problem.
Yeah, the Dickies work shirts, you can get them in extra long or tall as well. Those work fantastically.
Yeah.
Okay, so one we have right here is how can I comfortably safely wear a weapon with shorter or shorts and tank top? And their, I guess, CCW teacher told them that they needed to wear different clothing if they were to carry, but it just seems irrational. Obviously, you guys touched on a lot of that, but
yeah, I mean, man, so I wasn't there unless this was one of my former students. I wasn't there, so I don't know how it was all phrased and what the full conversation is. I get what you're describing and how you were dressed, but I know Joe probably about 4 years ago had a lady ask me the same thing about wearing like little short shorts and wearing a tank top that's like the midriff, like the belly shows. And I'm like, and you want to conceal carry? Because I was like, I mean, honestly, for those little short shorts and like midriff tank top that's showing your belly and everything, I mean, you might need to wear different clothing if you're that dead set on concealed carrying. I mean, honestly, the only other option would maybe be to get like a little tiny Ruger LCP, little pocket 380. And that's if there's even pockets on that on those shorts. Because, I mean, even if you did a sticky holster or like the pocket holsters we were talking about earlier, like the one you talked about, like with the claw at the bottom, Are you thinking like the DeSantis ones?
Yeah.
DeSantis, how are you pronouncing them?
Yeah.
I mean, no joke, in tank top and shorts, it is going to be a little more difficult for you to conceal carry, unfortunately. So, I mean, really, I guess the next question would be, are you okay with open carry? And that would be your option to still be able to carry. It's going to be difficult, unfortunately. I mean, it just really is.
Daisy Duke had to have Bo and Luke protecting her. Right? Unfortunately, if you're going to dress like that, you're going to need to have somebody else with you.
Yeah, and let's be real.
Like, ladies they typically had a bow and arrow or a crossbow.
Yeah. And pockets are not going to be that deep, especially with ladies' clothes. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I will tell you right now, because I'm sure every instructor is going to be different, and by all means, we're men. Don't listen to us. Find a female instructor and pose that question to her. Now, I don't know if you had a female instructor. If you did, that might put a damper on this question. But I would ask a female instructor for sure. And just explain it and see what their answer is, because there might be something really cool out there for women wearing, tank tops and little shorts that I don't know about. Because that's not going to pop up in my feeds, because that's not how I dress. So, or I would also ask a female instructor that question if the instructor that told you that was a male.
Definitely. Next question: what are some of the best summer carry suggestions for motorcycle riders?
I would say carry appendix, because every time that we got a lot of service members here in Colorado Springs. You see the guys that are driving very fast down the highway there, wearing a t-shirt on their crotch rocket, and the wind will pull up the size of your shirt and the back of your shirt, but the wind will press your shirt down in the front.
Yep. No, I've seen so many sport bike riders go flying by me. The whole shirt is lifted up in their back, and I see their gun. So I'm with you on that for the appendix carry on that part of it. 100% agree with that. Also, it depends. I mean, like, the Harley riders and everything like that, and the guys on the big bikes. There are, if you've got locking saddlebags, you could put it in there, I guess, but it doesn't do you any good if something happens when you're on the bike, because now it's not on your body. So that kind of purpose. There are the vest pockets that you can get. Like, they've got like the leather, vests and everything that actually do have pockets designed specific for a gun to go into. So there are those. One that a buddy of mine ended up getting, people in the knife community will know this guy. His name is Jim Skelton, and he rides a Harley, and it's not a fanny pack. Before anybody says anything, it's not a fanny pack. But it's this like medium-sized leather bag that straps around the leg for you to wear while you're riding, that has a holster in it for your gun. And you can have different holster options and put different holsters in there. And when he switched to that while riding, He said it was the best thing he ever did for still being able to carry on his body while riding. And it just literally just straps around his leg. I mean, I'd say medium. It's a small bag. Like, again, I don't want to say fanny pack, but fanny pack-esque, but straps around your leg. And he's got his gun in there. He's got his wallet in there. Like, he had everything in there. He'd just get off his bike and go into a restaurant, wherever we were going. And he was fine. Didn't need to change anything or take anything off. And I mean, he loved it. He said it was the most comfortable way he's ever carried while riding. I wish the company that made it. I don't know because I don't ride, but.
And, we didn't actually touch on fanny packs, but they've actually kind of come back into style slightly. Things that you and I had when we were kids and now look back and say, oh my God, why did I wear that? The kids nowadays are wearing stuff like that to be ironic. And, if you can get a fanny pack and carry around a fanny pack and actually look, I'm not going to say stylish because you're definitely not stylish, but there is a subset of people. It doesn't look as standoutish as it does anymore. And if you're going to carry inside a fanny pack, good way to do that is Raven Concealment makes. I think they call it their Vanguard. It just kind of clips over the trigger on your Glock to make sure that nothing is going to hit that, and you can tie off the other end of it inside your fanny pack. So when you pull it out, the little trigger guard is just going to come off. There's other companies that are making something similar. That is an option if you are somebody that is really into wearing tank tops and short shorts. If you think you can get a jazz coffee cup, patterned fanny pack and pull that off, more power to you.
Yeah, and it's hilarious to me that they've made a comeback. And I mean, I get it. Old fashions come back. It's whatever that show is now that people are like, oh, this Metallica is amazing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's Metallica. Well, it's Stranger Things, I guess, brought that back. Popular. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But, whatever. We're older. So for me, being an 80s kid, there's not a chance I'm going to hop onto the fanny pack bandwagon because that was what you were embarrassed by your parents carrying when you were in the 80s and a kid. So, but honestly, no joke, it is a great option for carry for, back to the shorts and tank top question. If you want to carry a fanny pack and put a gun in there, because it's still technically on your body.
Yeah. All right. Comfortable carry options for big fellas.
Outside the waistband.
Yeah, strong side. Appendix is tough for us larger gentlemen, but strong side and get a good claw on the holster to pull it in.
Great.
And there are plenty of outside the waistband holsters that you can get that you can still conceal carry with. I mean, big guy or not, inside the waistband is uncomfortable for a lot of people. I tend to do that. I do inside the waistband holsters mainly, but I do have some outside the waistband holsters that I can still conceal carry with. So there are plenty of good options for that too.
Yeah, honestly, all you really get from an inside the waistband holster is it just covers up the extra inch or two of muzzle that's extending past the bottom of the clips there. So if you can get a longer t-shirt, you should be able to cover up just about the same thing wearing it outside the waistband.
Yeah. All right. What is best to avoid the impacts of sol acids from sweat on our holster and weapons?
Yeah, and I forgot that was in the other questions that we had because that is one that's near the top of our comments that they were asking about.
Right.
Look, you're not going to avoid it altogether. It's not going to happen. When it's 100, what was it today? Like 104 today in Texas. At least where we're at, I'm sure in Houston it was probably like 110 and humid. You walk out in Houston, man, and you walk out and you're in a sauna instantly. My wife and I, we were out there just 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we walked out of the hotel and my wife looks at me and she's like, why is everything wet? Because you've got the heat and the humidity. Yeah. You're going to get sweat on it. It's going to happen. One thing that can be a little bit helpful, especially like if you're doing that alien gear holster, is depending on the model that you're getting, they have the neoprene backing, which can help repel sweat. versus like a leather backing that will absorb it. So, I mean, there's stuff like that, but definitely just even for your Kydex holsters, it's not every manufacturer, but a lot of them have, when you make your holster or order your holster, you know, you're picking the gun, if you're doing optics, lights, whatever, they'll usually have a sweat guard option. They'll have the guard option for like no guard, mid to high. And I mean, if you get the high guard, it's going, that Kydex is going to come all the way up on the high guard to the top of the slide. And so I tend to not do it just because it is more Kydex and it's more for something to dig into me. If I, you know, lean over and, you know, the Kydex is hard plastic versus, you know, the kind of like curve of the back of my steel Glock 19 slide, you know, I tend to do either a low to mid sweat guard on my guns. You're going to get sweat on it. So after carrying all day, you know, when you get home, wipe your gun down. Just wipe it down so you're not having all that sweat and acid and everything from your body and the salt, like the comment says, just sitting there on your gun and on your slide, and could potentially rust it later on if you're going to keep carrying every day and never wipe your gun down. And I mean, one big thing too is, even if you don't do it that day, just make sure to clean and lube your guns regularly, and you're not going to have to worry about your gun rusting out on you.
Yeah, and I think the best solution for that is honestly how you're going to treat the gun. And by treat, I mean get some Cerakote on it, get something that's got a good finish on there. If you're rocking something that's got a a crappy finish on the gun, or if you're trying to carry your 1976 Colt Series 70 1911, it's going to rust like crazy. Best thing you can do, Cerakote or Duracoat. I like Cerakote. It's a little thinner. I think that if you're actually looking at somebody that's got like a really, there are some people that, for whatever reason, their sweat is like the aliens in the movie Aliens, just eats through everything. If you're one of those people, I think Duracoat actually, because it's a little bit thicker, may probably work a little bit better. Yeah. But get a good coating on the gun. Look into getting something that is stainless and then coated, and then throw some Cerakote on top of it. You're unfortunately, if you are somebody that is, biologically cursed like that, you may have to take some extra steps, but they're definitely doable. Find a local Cerakote shop that can take care of it. That's going to be your best bet. And I'd stick with Kydex holsters. Don't go with anything leather or neoprene, anything that can really soak up the sweat. Kydex is hard plastic. It's going to be a barrier between you and your gun. When you pull the holster off, it's going to be, completely soaked on the backside, and hopefully it didn't drip onto the gun, and then clean it off when you get the opportunity.
Yeah, and the big thing to do also is with your holster, do maintenance on the holster and make sure you're cleaning that, because I noticed one of the first Kydex holsters I ever had, that I'd carried it for years, that the holster was fine, the gun was fine, there was rust on the screws of the holster. Yep. So, take it apart, clean that up too, clean up the screws, wipe them down, put your holster back together. But I'm with you 100% on the Kydex over the leather for that.
All right. This next question is kind of on the same topic. When I have to leave my firearm locked in a safe inside my vehicle due to MP, with temperatures in the upper 90s and upper 100s, 110s over here, do I need to worry about degradation of the firearm and ammo?
Man, I've been asked this so many times in class, and I get the question. It's a valid, legit question for sure. And more so, what I'm more being asked about it, they're wondering if it's unsafe to leave the gun in the vehicle, and more so the ammo in the vehicle. They're worried, like, because of the rising heat, the ammo is just going to explode or something. And I mean, I get it, I get the thought process, but I'm like, look, just think about where our military has been for like the last 2 decades. They're out in Afghanistan and Iraq, 110, 120 degree, heat out in the desert. And all those millions of rounds of ammo are stored in metal cans out in the sun. So as far as the degradation of the ammo, you'd be having to leave it in that car for months on end with constant temperature fluctuation and, humidity getting into the vehicle and everything like that to have it really, degrade the quality of your ammo. So,
yeah. I don't think that's a major issue with ammo. It's just in my personal experience. Good test on this. All right, take your pistol out, fire 15 rounds through it, and then touch the chamber of the barrel. You're going to burn your fingers when you do it. Okay.
Don't do that.
Now, fire those 15 rounds. Put a round in the chamber and set the gun down. Is it going to cook off? No. All right. I mean, when you talk about actual machine guns, with the M16, you don't start getting into danger of cook-offs until you have got 20 mags through the gun without giving it a chance to cool down, and you've already melted down your gas tube. So cook-offs are not going to happen just because it's in the back of a hot car. It's not going to degrade the ammunition. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would be, more worried about, in very, very severe cold temperatures and the metal expanding enough to where, if depending on the gun you have, if the primer, comes out and hits the striker, that I would be more concerned about that. But I mean, I've never heard of that happening either. But that'd be more my issue.
All right. I think that might have been all the questions. I mean, you guys touched on everything in the comments, and then some of those questions touched on other ones in the comments. Are there any last minute tips or conclusions for this webinar before I close it out?
Get out there and practice with what you're going to carry. And, honestly, it's going to be a mindset thing. When you first get your concealed carry permit, you're going to think everybody knows you got it. You're going to freak out about it. Calm down. You're going to be okay. Don't go printing, obviously, and, being that guy, but you're going to be okay. Not everybody knows you have it.
Yeah, no, I'm with James 100% on that. I mean, and I know we have plenty of, members and followers and everything that you own multiple guns. And, that's great. I do too. But when it comes down to it, if you're looking at buying the next new hot gun that just came out on the market, what's really going to happen? You're going to buy it. You're going to go shoot it probably a few times at the range, and then you're going to stick it in your safe with all the other ones that are sitting there all lonely and never carried, just like plenty of mine. Spend the extra money on a training course. Seriously. I mean, some of the training courses can be pretty expensive, even the cost of a gun sometimes. It's worth it. It's going to serve you better to know or to develop more skills and to know how to properly use your firearm. I mean, even if you just have the one firearm, take another training course, learn how to develop those skills, take holster courses, take tactical courses. It'll serve you far better. And I mean, they've got that old saying, I'm not worried about the guy that owns 200 guns. I'm worried about the guy that owns one because he knows how to use it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I think that sums it up for today's webinar. Thank you again, James and John, for providing great tips for summer carrying, as you guys always do with all the webinars you're on. If any of you viewers still have any additional questions, please email marketing@firearmslegal.com. Thank you all again for joining this month's webinar. Remember to click the links in the caption below to sign up for protection at a discounted rate, and to also let us know what you would like to see in any of our future webinars. We, of course, appreciate hearing from all of y'all so we can make sure to keep providing content like this. So make sure to like our Facebook page and hit the subscribe button below and that little bell on YouTube to make sure you receive notification whenever we do go live for webinars like this in the future. Thanks again for everyone joining tonight. Have a great rest of your night. Remember, protect yourself, we'll protect you.